Federal Republic of Nigeria. My lead debate on harmonized retirement age for legislative officers of the National Assembly of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The bill was read for the first time on Tuesday, 30th January 2024. The bill seeks, distinguished colleagues, to make provisions for a harmonized retirement age for legislative officers of the National Assembly, exempting them from the application of the General Service Rule on retirement age. Mr. President, respected colleagues, the bill provides for the retirement age of legislative officers to retire at the age of 65 years or 40 years of service, whichever is earlier. You would agree with me that the National Assembly is a specialized institution which needs to be strengthened, and to achieve this, its officers need to be placed well by removing them from public service rules on retirement age. This is in line with the international best practices. For the avoidance of doubt, distinguished colleagues, in the United States Congress, because of the need to ensure institutional memory, legislative officers retire at the age of 65 years, and same is also applicable to the British Parliament. We also have examples of other countries with similar provisions in the laws establishing their parliament. Of the three arms of government, the National Assembly is the least developed, and this can be attributed to the dearth of its qualified staff who were caught up by the public service rules on retirement age. Considering the importance of the legislative service, the passage of the bill into law will strengthen the legislature as an arm of government, as similar legislations are provided for other arms of government in Nigeria. The legislations passed to increase the retirement age for all the services in the executive and judiciary arms, for the avoidance of doubt, are as follows. 1. Harmonized retirement age for teachers in Nigeria Act 2022, passed by this Parliament. 2. Retirement age of staff of polytechnics and colleges of education Harmonization Act 2025 for academic and non-academic staff, passed also by this Parliament. 3.
Come again, 2020 what?
Retirement age.
2020 what? Because you said 2025.
I apologize.
No, I'm saying for the purpose of record, it's good to let you know we haven't reached 2025 yet.
2012 for academic and non-academic. 3. Universities Miscellaneous Provisions Amendment Act 2012 for university lecturers, also passed by this Parliament. And 4. Harmonized retirement age for judicial officers from 65 to 70 years, passed also by this Parliament. Mr. President, respected colleagues, this bill is geared towards making provisions for the retirement age of legislative officers. And please note my words, legislative officers who are staff of the National Assembly, but the provision does not include the following: drivers, porters, cleaners, security guards, messengers, typists, craftsmen, mechanics, clerical officers, gardeners, stewards and or cooks, and foremen. Mr. President, respective colleagues, given that legislative officers of the National Assembly are eminently qualified to have their retirement age increased from 60 to 65 or 35 to 40 years in service, whichever is earlier. This will strengthen the institution for an improved service delivery, stabilize and develop the capacity of the legislature for a sustainable democracy in Nigeria. Permit me to state here that the enactment of this bill will help save the institutional memory of the National Assembly and will also be cost-effective in the long run, considering the cost of engaging consultants. The rate of turnover of members of the National Assembly every election year puts the legislature into dilemma of training the new members, but the effect is not felt because of legislative officers with in-depth knowledge of processes, practices, and procedures of the legislature that are still very much in the system. Consider what will happen if they are affected with the public service rules on retirement age. This will throw the institution into another level of learning process that will place a heavy financial burden on the National Assembly engaging consultants. The cost effectiveness of this bill for a harmonized retirement age for legislative officers of the National Assembly, Mr. President, is laudable. Mr. President, my respected colleagues, this bill went through rigorous legislative process, including public hearing in the House of Representatives, and was passed. The bill was passed by the House of Representatives. The bill, as was passed by the House of Representatives, is slightly amended to meet with the present realities, as we will see in the report for clause-by-clause consideration in the Committee of the Oath. I must also add that it was the initiative of the leadership of the Senate, as well as distinguished members who at committee level had a chance to go through this, by insisting that legislative officer, there should be a proper definition of legislative officers. And it was because of that that those exemptions were made. I therefore, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, urge you all to support the second reading of this bill to encourage legislative officers to continue to offer professional services to this institution as we refer it to the Committee of the Whole for clause-by-clause consideration. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, I am Suleiman Abdurrahman Kaw Sumaila, representing Kano South Senatorial District from Kano. Mr. President, my dear colleagues, I am here to support what the leader of the House, okay, I thought we were starting the debate. Mr. President, I am here to second the motion heavily moved by Senate leader. I so second, Mr. President. After seconding, Mr. President, I just want to add 1 or 2 words in line with the submission and to show my support on this bill. It is in 2 areas. The first one is that, Mr. President, we are practicing bicameral legislation, and by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are the Senate. We are partners with the House of Representatives. They have started this very important legislation and they are finished. They are looking for our concurrence for the bill to become the law of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I think in the spirit of togetherness, we are to support all what came from the House of Representatives. 1, Secondly, Mr. President, I am supporting this proposal, or I am supporting this bill because of one fundamental issue. If we can remember, in 2009, 2010, when we started the process of amending Nigerian Constitution, the Senate and the House constituted a committee, Constitutional Amendment Committee, as we have it today. I am glad to say the gentleman sitting before you is the secretary of our committee of the Constitutional Amendment in the 6th and 7th Assembly, the clerk of the Senate of today. If you see how he works day in, day out, to put the committee and the National Assembly, more particular House of Representatives, through to have the first amended Constitution from 1964 to date, on that very material time, you must commend his effort. One. Secondly, Mr. President, when we are doing it, he attended so many conferences, so many seminars. We have so many engagements locally and internationally to have knowledge on how to amend the Constitution, and we have achieved in starting amending Nigerian Constitution bit by bit to where we are today. If you check, or if you look what he is doing to promote as a technical aspect of legislation in this chamber, the way he is guiding the chamber now, without this legislation, or without passing this legislation, he is going to retire very soon, which there is serious issue on that aspect. We are losing men, and most of this work is by brain, not a physical. Therefore, I am supporting this amendment, and I am urging our colleague to support this amendment, because legislation work is professional, it's very special. It's not like the other civil service work I saw submit, Mr. President.
Thank you, distinguished Senator. Nobody? Nobody? Please, if there's anybody that is opposed to it, raise your hand. Senator Abaribe.
The lead debate. Let me put on record, Mr. President, that I'm opposed to this extension. And I have looked at the reasons given by the Senate leader on why we should extend. First one, that there's a harmonized retirement for teachers. We passed the teachers bill here, and we know the reason why. Teachers, lecturers, and others are the bedrock of raising the society and the level of, I will say, the development of the country. And so when we looked at it, and the rate at which people were leaving this country because of very low pay, we said, no, let us help. I've also looked at the ones for universities, which is about what we passed about the same time, and for judicial officers. Then coming down to the officers of the National Assembly, I ask a simple question. My distinguished colleague here has said, just take an example of somebody who has knowledge. If we go to specialized knowledge, I ask, the person in the Ministry of Finance who is a director, does he not have specialized knowledge of finance? Would we say that it is so different from the person who is in the finance sector inside this place? And when you now say that, that one person here has knowledge, every director here has a deputy. every clerk here has a deputy. And each and every one of them are trying to also, when the people retire, they also go up. When they go up, other people are now employed. Then we want to stultify employment to make sure that somebody stays here beyond the public service rules. The third one, Mr. President, is that what will the Nigerian public say of us? That because we have people who work inside here as our staff, then we want to make them very different from the rest of the staff in the public service of Nigeria. I think that if we say that, oh, people have knowledge, they have to stay, why wouldn't we go ahead and pass a harmonized bill for everybody in this country and let everyone move up? Why should it be special here? And I continue to insist, the core and the work here is done by us as elected people. Every person inside here who works as support staff must have his training from the time he begins. So we cannot use that they are not trained or they are not this as a reason. We are replaced every 4 years. We know that. And we cannot say, oh, let us expand because of that. No. Until a special reason is given. And I do not see, Mr. President, my dear colleagues, I do not see what separates the person who works inside here as a staff of the National Assembly from the person who works in the Ministry of Commerce as a staff. Until we can say that, then we will say, okay, there is something very different. And so, Mr. President, I do not support the extension.
In making my contribution, I always try to remind us that we are senators. I kept quiet on this matter because ever since it was reflected on the other paper, I've been trying to get information from the staff. I may make a mistake, but if you put this on a secret ballot to the staff here, you'll be surprised what will happen. If we are here, we should really be senators. This matter, I've listened to our colleagues from both sides. I'm not opposing or supporting, but I'm cautioning us that we need to do more consultation on this matter before we take a decision. That's my contribution.
Representing Katsina South, in actual sense, I'm against this very motion, bill heavily moved by the leader for 5 important reasons. Because if you look at the situation this country is, and considering this bill, it will create a vacuum to the other ministries. Because all of them, they will come and posterity will judge us that we have done what is wrong. Because this bill is, if you spend 35 years in service, and some of them even their age is overdue in their services. And as a matter of fact, we have graduates and unemployed people in this country that are pit deemed to take positions in that respect, and they are denied responsibility to come to serve under this very important institution. And as a matter of fact, we are making things difficult to this country instead of solving what we are supposed to solve. Because somebody who spent 35 years in service and demanded another, if it is in academic line, is training and retraining of our young and graduates to come into something. But for this one, Mr. President, there is a lot of issues which we have to look at it. What more of the rest of the drivers and the cleaners and the ones that were exonerated in this bill? Are they not human beings? So as a matter of fact, we have to look at the reality of even the situation, economic situation we are. So that is why I'm voicing my mind to oppose this very bill for austerity reason. Thank you, Mr.
Point of order. Point of order. Mr. President, point of order. Mr. President, sir. No, Senate.
Point of order. Point of order.
Mr. President, this is a contentious matter. Let us step it down and do more consultation. I so move. I move. I move. We will not support.
Order.
In support of the bill. I also wanted to hear from those who are opposed to the bill, and I've seen so many hands here who are opposed to the bill. Therefore, the bill is controversial. My opinion is that we step it down for more consultations. Is that the view of the Senate? Okay, I put the question. I put the question. Those in support of the motion that were of the view that we step it down for further consultation, say aye. And those against say nay. The ayes have it.